Hey everybody, Katie and Ben here from Reorigin. Super excited to have you. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the mind-body connection. The more connected we are to our bodies, the more safe our nervous system feels. So we can just make that healing process a little bit more smooth, I guess. So we'll talk about the mind-body connection and really what it is. I know a lot of you have probably heard of it before, but it just refers to the relationship between our mental, emotional state and our physical state, our physical health. So it's really based on this understanding that everything that we experience in our outside world contributes to our emotional, physical, mental health. So all of our thoughts, all of our emotions, our attitude, everyday attitude can really affect our physical well-being and also vice versa. So we want to talk about that in a little bit more depth, and then we're also going to talk about ways to enhance that mind-body connection.
Yeah, so this is an area I'm really passionate about because one of the cool things about the mind-body connection that they're always discovering more about is that there's this what's called a bi-directional communication pathway between the mind and the body. And in fact, even on some level, to think about it as like the mind and then the body and then the connection is almost, it's a very Newtonian way to think about it. In reality, as we explain in the Reorigin program, when you get into neuroscience and understanding how the nervous system works, the brain literally unfolds itself throughout the body, through the central nervous system and then through all of the nerve endings that come off of that branch or those branches of a tree. And so the mind really is the body in a sense, and the body is the mind. And whenever we're going out and experiencing things, we're taking in all of this sensory information. And so in this video, we're going to chat a little bit about some ways that we can help to foster that tighter connection, because I think the main point is that when we start to feel more in sync with our body instead of just like being stuck in our mind, it helps us transition out of feeling stuck, out of rumination. It helps us feel more lighter and freer at home in our own bodies and minds. And for this reason, we always say at Reorigin, train your brain, trust your body. It's super common if you've been experiencing stress for a long time or a chronic condition that we can start to lose trust in our bodies, in the signals that they're sending us, because many of those signals might be discomfort. And that's okay. We want to work to start to shift our relationship with that discomfort. And by doing that, we can actually start to really relax and feel at ease and at home in our body with however it's doing.
And I think a really important point to touch on with that, with loss of trust and beginning to shift, is learning and leaning into having optimism about our health, no matter where we're at in our health. And I want to have one caveat to remind you guys that optimism does not mean this toxic positivity where we're never addressing what's going on and we're just completely ignoring it. But we have seen that optimism about our health, wherever we are at in our journey, can really influence recovery rates, and it really boosts our immune system, and it also just gives us a sense of resilience that we can take on more challenges, and we can take on whatever we're going through in those hard recovery moments. So optimism is a huge thing to really lean into when you're wanting to enhance and improve that overall mind-body connection, especially when you're struggling.
Yeah. Okay, so Katie, what are some of your favorite ways to kindle this connection with the mind and the body?
My favorite way to enhance my mind-body connection is definitely mindfulness. My favorite mindfulness practice is body scanning. So really allowing ourselves to pay full attention to where we are in the present moment. That's general mindfulness. So general mindfulness, you could be scanning the environment that you're in. I like to go one step further to be scanning my body, because it gives me more of that sense of connection with my body. The most important piece of mindfulness, though, is that we're doing it without judgment, right? So if you're experiencing any sort of physical symptoms, you might be scanning your body, but there's no right or wrong to what you are experiencing or what you're feeling. You're simply simply noticing. And when we get out of our head and get into our body, naturally our nervous system will start to calm, we can reduce stress, and we can also signal to our nervous system that I can be in the presence of discomfort, whatever that looks like. It's safe to be here. So mindfulness, body scanning, a huge practice that I love. A couple other ways to practice mindfulness might include like mindful eating, where you're fully present with the meal that you're eating and you're noticing all your five senses. Mindful walking, noticing the sensations that you're experiencing in your body, and then also those external stimuli that are coming in. And then, like I said, that mindful observation of just what's going on in the world around us. That's definitely my favorite way.
Yeah, fantastic. And just for clarification, because there's like a lot of talk around mindfulness used in a lot of different ways, but really it basically just boils down to paying attention, right? It's like there can be a lot of different connotations around it, but really ultimately the way we're talking about it and the way we practice it in Reorigin and elsewhere is really just a matter of like noticing what you're paying attention to. And oftentimes, because of what we talked about before in this channel, something called the negativity bias, our brain, our mind gets pulled into noticing and paying attention to or attending to things that are causing discomfort or problems that we're trying to ruminate or rehash in the brain. And so by simply even noticing that already is a win. Yeah. And then it puts us in the driver's seat and we can start to shift it in the other ways.
Yeah. We become the observer. Instead of being the one that's in it and caught up in everything, we can take that step back and we can just observe and understand this is what's happening right now, and it gives us a little bit of that control back.
Yeah, I described this in one of the other videos as like sometimes we feel like we're in a car in the back seat and the car is just careening down the freeway and like we're being pulled along, and sort of our role with just noticing, paying attention, and then doing some of these exercises that we talk about in this channel a lot and demonstrate in the follow along exercises is kind of like climbing our way back into the passenger seat, or the driver's seat rather, putting our hands on the wheel, and then just re-engaging with being the sort of director instead of the passenger.
Absolutely, love that.
Okay, so I think one of my favorite ways to kindle this mind-body connection is I really love posture and just noticing. I'm using posture in the sense here, not just like a static. When we think of posture, sometimes we think of our parents telling us to sit up straight, right? Yeah. Which sometimes creates more tension, right? But I'm really using it in the sense of really just noticing where we naturally settle and then guiding ourselves into a position that ultimately feels more comfortable. And sometimes, slouching back like this can be a posture, right?
Totally.
Leaning forward, resting your hands on the table, relaxing a bit, feeling the table. This can be a posture. Changing your head position can do remarkable things because the head is basically what contains the brain, and that goes down, branches into the central nervous system. So when we change the position of the head, we change a lot of the information that's getting sent to the brain and the rest of the body. We know that astronauts in space, the first few days, it takes their brain a while to recalibrate because the stones in their ears that are basically responsible for proprioception, for determining where the horizon line is, they start floating and it starts acting funny, but the brain does recalibrate to it. And so one of the things that I like to do, and I'll do this frequently, is I'll just change my posture. Maybe I'll try sitting up really straight. I'll try feeling like I have this string, coming out of the top of my head that I pull. Then I'll try relaxing and seeing if I can sort of maintain some of that posture. Sometimes I'll even change my head position, just like tilting it to the side. And it's really remarkable, talking about noticing, paying attention, and being mindful, just to notice the shadows around the room, notice the things that you didn't notice before when you simply change the angle. I remember in college, I took a drawing class, illustration class, and we had to draw from a photograph a picture of a woman in a rocking chair. And mine was like a 6-year-old drawing, and I was not a talented drawer or illustrator at 6 years old. So it came off with the proportions all out of whack. And it happened for a lot of people who were new to illustration. And the teacher of the class then had us do a second version of this. He had us invert the image. So we were looking at it, and all we really noticed were the shapes and the shadows and the lines, and we didn't really notice, oh, it's a woman in a rocking chair. And I just started making it that way. And then afterwards, when I turned my picture to be what is right side up, I was really surprised to see that it was way more accurate than what I had perceived, because my brain had filled in the gaps and imposed what I thought should be an image of a woman in a rocking chair instead of what I actually was seeing. So by simply changing our view, this sounds, it probably looks funny, but I actually do this if I'm, at the computer for a long time, or I'll just like look at something from a different direction, and it really does give you a new perspective. It gives your brain more robust information, and it makes you feel more at home in your body.
I love that. That's so cool. And you just mentioned feeling more at home in your body. I think some other practices that are really helpful in doing that are like somatic types of movement, and really, Ben talks about this all the time. Instead of working out, working in. So choosing types of movement that work in, that get us more deeply connected to our body. So, what Ben was talking about, what I was talking about with body scanning, but also like Tai Chi or Qigong, like those very slow and rhythmic types of movement. Some people do yoga, Pilates can be really helpful, because you can't do those things. I don't even like using the word correctly, but you can't do them correctly if you're going fast and you're not connected to your body. So those are also practices that are directed at enhancing that connection between the mind and the body.
Yeah, so there you have it. A few quick tips that you can implement now in summary to foster the mind-body connection. Notice, pay attention, be mindful with what you're doing, slow down. Phenomenal tip. If you want to pay attention to things that you previously weren't noticing, just do them at half the speed and you will feel instantly more connected. And then the third one, try changing your own perspective, literally by changing your head position and seeing things in a new light. So if you like this video, if you want more tips and tricks like this on neuroplasticity, how to retrain your brain, reclaim your health, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also sign up for our newsletter, where we have exclusive tips and tricks like this, but also things that are not included on this channel. That is reorigin.com/newsletter. And finally, leave your comments below in the video.
Thanks, guys.